Nowadays, most people associate Mark Cuban with Shark Tank and the Dallas Mavericks. He's known for making offers with short expiration dates and pounces on businesses whenever he suspects something is wrong. His loud personality and inflated ego are likewise difficult to overlook. Despite these oddities, Mark is by far the most dependable shark on the show. While Mark frequently mentions how hard he worked to get to the top, it's never made clear how he made his money. So here's the story of how Mark Cuban became Shark Tank's favorite millionaire, young entrepreneur. Mark was born on July 31, 1958, to a Jewish immigrant family in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. His father's family were Russian immigrants. Mark's father worked as an automobile upholsterer in the United States, while his mother was a housewife. Mark's family wasn't very affluent, but from an early age, Mark was always looking for methods to gain money. For example, when he was 12, he sold garbage bags door to door in order to acquire some pricey basketball sneakers. Similarly, when Mark was 16, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette went on strike, and he took advantage of the situation by selling newspapers from Cleveland to Pittsburgh. Clearly, Mark was doing well for himself as a teenager, but he had no desire to stay at the same level. He would work his way through high school and graduate a year early, allowing him to attend the University of Pittsburgh. Mark first chose this college because he was a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but after only 1 year, he realized that it was far wiser to choose a college based on finances. So he'd transfer to Indiana University in Bloomington because it had the lowest tuition of the top 10 business schools. Mark never lost his entrepreneurial spirit. In college, he helped run a pub and gave disco lessons. After graduating in 1981 with a bachelor's degree in business administration, Mark returned to Pennsylvania after college to work at Mellon Bank. Mellon Bank was in the process of transitioning from paper to computers at the time, which demonstrated to Mark the power of computers. But Mark didn't stay long. Just 1 year later, Mark chose to relocate to Dallas, Texas, where he worked as a bartender and a salesman for a firm named Your Business Software. Even today, Mark claims that if he had to start from scratch, he would work as a salesman during the day and as a bartender at night. This way, he'd have a consistent income from bartending, as well as a scalable income from selling. Unfortunately for Mark, he was sacked from his sales position during his first year because he was meeting with a client instead of opening the business one day. Instead of looking for another job, Mark decided it was time to launch his own business, Micro Solutions. Mark's first company was Micro Solutions, a software consulting firm. The business was pretty much a copy of Mark's old job at Your Business Software, but Mark thought he could do it much better. One of Mark's fundamental business concepts is that execution is far more essential than the idea. He claims that everyone has a fantastic idea, but only a few people can put it into action. Following your passion is also one of the great lies of life, according to Mark. He claims that if he had pursued his desire, he would have ended up as an unsuccessful basketball or baseball player. Mark has always insisted on seizing opportunities, and the potential with Micro Solutions was that Mark had already established a client base at his previous position. So all he had to do was persuade them to switch over, which, being the hustler that he is, wasn't too difficult. Apart from amassing a loyal clientele that included Ross Perot, Mark was quick to embrace emerging technologies such as remote screen sharing, client-server software platforms, and of course, the internet. Micro Solutions had grown to $30 million in revenue by 1990. And its remarkable performance drew some purchase proposals. That same year, Mark sold Micro Solutions to CompuServe for $6 million, netting him around $2 million after taxes. And adjusting for inflation, we're talking about roughly $4.2 million, which is far from becoming a billionaire, but Mark was more than satisfied with this sum. Mark, you see, never set out to become a billionaire. He simply wanted to be financially free and enjoy life. And $4.2 million was more than enough to get the job done. After cashing out, one of Mark's first orders of business was to spend $600,000 on an American Airlines unlimited pass. As the name implies, Mark was able to travel in first class on American Airlines an unlimited number of times. Mark claims that he utilized the pass to travel the world and party like a madman during the next 5 years. The long-term cost of the ticket was apparently only 12 cents per mile. To put that in context, The typical economy class airline ticket costs around 11.5 cents per mile, so roughly the same amount, although Mark was flying first class. This was certainly a poor business choice by American Airlines, which is probably why they terminated the pass, but it is still valid for anyone who purchased it. Mark is now one of only 25 persons who still has the pass. Mark evidently had a great time traveling the world in the early 1990s, but it didn't take long for him to start another business, Broadcast.com. Mark didn't start this next company. In fact, he wasn't looking to start another one. But when the opportunity arose, he couldn't pass it up. Todd Wagner, one of Mark's undergraduate pals, introduced him to Cameron J. Cameron founded Cameron Audio Networks in 1989, specializing in streaming out-of-town sporting games. Cameron began by trying to sell handheld satellite systems to broadcast sport games, but in the early 1990s, he switched to internet streaming. Mark, a huge basketball fan, was really interested in the idea and agreed to contribute $10,000 in exchange for 2% of the company, which valued the business at $500,000. Given that they hadn't even launched yet, this was a pretty high valuation for the company. Cameron was still negotiating streaming rights with broadcasters, but despite the early stage of the company, Mark became increasingly interested in time, and he would even offer to buy it out. Cameron consented, likely because he didn't anticipate the company to expand so quickly or so large, but this would prove to be a huge mistake for Cameron. In September 1995, Mark rebranded the company as AudioNet and launched the service. In 1998, he changed the name once more to Broadcast.com. Meanwhile, the company was expanding rapidly, amassing 570,000 users in the first several years. When Broadcast.com went public in 1998, the stock rose 250% on the first day of trading, valuing the company at $1 billion. Mark's net worth increased to $300 million as a result of his 30% ownership in the company. Later, in 1999, Mark expanded the company into video streaming and assisted Victoria's Secret in live streaming a fashion show. That same year, Yahoo offered to buy the company for $5.7 billion. Today, this is regarded as one of the worst acquisitions of all time, as Yahoo eventually shut down the service in 2002. To be honest, Yahoo was largely to blame for the company's demise. Take a look at how popular streaming is today. YouTube, Twitch, Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, and many other services are available. Netflix is now worth $250 billion, so it appears that Yahoo missed an opportunity with Broadcast.com. Following the acquisition, Mark sold off all of his Yahoo stock within a year and was now a billionaire, not just on paper, but also in cash. Getting lucky. Mark is very open about his luck with Broadcast.com. He was extremely lucky to be introduced to Cameron, then incredibly lucky that Cameron agreed to let Mark take over the company, and then tremendously lucky that Yahoo decided to purchase the money-losing company for billions of dollars. In October 1999, he paid $40 million for a Gulfstream jet via the internet, setting a global record for the largest single e-commerce transaction. In January 2000, Mark purchased the Dallas Mavericks for $285 million. Mark wasn't attempting to make a financial commitment in the team. He simply enjoyed basketball and wanted to help build the team to the top. But the squad's excellent success has converted this into a fantastic investment. Prior to Mark's purchase, the Mavericks only won 40% of their games. However, in the 10 years after his purchase, the Mavericks won 69% of their games and even won the NBA championship in 2011. The Mavericks are now worth $2.7 billion, nearly a tenfold return on Mark's investment. Mark has also been attempting to break into show business for quite some time, and while Shark Tank is now incredibly successful, the same cannot be said for Mark's early attempts. Mark's first foray into producing a TV show was in 2004, when he produced The Benefactor. Mark would judge the performance of 16 candidates as they competed in various challenges to win $1 million. Unfortunately, the series was canceled before the first season was completed due to low ratings. At the same time, Mark purchased Magnolia Pictures and Landmark Cinema, both of which have proven to be solid investments. However, something magnificent was just around the corner: Shark Tank. Mark first appeared as a guest shark in 2011, and he quickly became a regular shark. Since he joined the team, the show's ratings have skyrocketed, and he's become one of the most sought-after sharks among businesses. Mark has invested a total of $19.85 million on broadcast as of 2015, and this figure is likely closer to $40 million currently, which is the biggest on the show. Previously, Shark Tank entrepreneurs were required to donate the production company 2% of their profits or 5% equity in the company in order to appear on the show. Given that sales normally skyrocket after a Shark Tank episode, this was a very good bargain. But Mark believed that the production firm was already making more than enough money and didn't need to eat into entrepreneurs' businesses. As a result, he threatened to leave the show if the company did not remove the Shark Tank tax. And considering Mark's importance to the show, the company obliged. And that's how Mark Cuban went from a teenage boy selling garbage bags to being everyone's favorite billionaire on Shark Tank. Do you guys think Mark just got lucky with Broadcast.com? Comment that down below. Also, drop a like and subscribe to our channel if you wish that you were as lucky as Mark. Thanks for watching.